Be some low cloud to start the day. Northern Ireland, once again, plenty of showers, if not longer spells of heavy rain around western coasts, and similar across Wales, parts of southwest England too. Quite a showery start to the day, but elsewhere across England and Wales, it should be dry and bright, but then through the course of the day we'll continue to see that cloud spilling in from the west, and eventually we'll start to see those showers following along behind too. Once again, if you do catch any heavy downpours, it could turn quite gusty for a time and also hear some rumbles of thunder. So it is going to be quite an unsettled day, particularly as we head towards the afternoon. With more cloud, more showers around, temperatures are returning to more average for the time of year, highs reaching around 22 to 23 degrees Celsius. Through into the evening, we won't really see much change. Cloudy skies continuing, more showers, perhaps some longer spells of rain starting to push their way into parts of Devon and Cornwall towards the end of the day. And for the rest of the week, showers, longer spells of rain set to continue, and average temperatures for the time of year. That's everything from me. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Be cautious around junction 15 of the M74 as a southbound incident causes delays. Extra travel time is advised. The M4 westbound at junction 42, Earlswood, has construction, closing the entry slip road with diversions posted. On the M602 westbound between junction 2 and junction 1, an accident has closed 2 lanes, causing a 10-minute delay. In Cornwall, the A30 eastbound between the A3074 and the A3047 has a collision, delaying traffic by 10 minutes. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast faces delays. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's the final week to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, good evening. It's 6 o'clock and this is Dewbs & Co. with me, Dawn Neeson, this evening. Now, a tragic story to start with. A school shooting in Minneapolis has taken the lives of 2 children aged just 8 and 10 years old, with many more injured, 2 critically. We'll bring you the latest on that with our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, soon. And up for other discussion is wind farms. Are they to blame for your rising energy bills? Well, that's what regulator Ofgem say. Should we be following Donald Trump and stop allowing wind turbines altogether? Plus Reform UK are storming ahead in the polls, with Labour slumping to a 6-year low. Are the Tories well and truly out of that picture, though? And, of course, Farage isn't out of the news for long, is he? His migration announcements rumble on with confusion as to whether children and women would be deported or not to places like Afghanistan, and why the Taliban are open to working with him. Absolutely thrilled. I've got a cracking panel for you tonight. Peter Hitchens, columnist at the Daily Mail, and Aaron Bastani, founder Navara Media. But first, let's get the news headlines for you.
Dawn, thank you and good evening. The top stories. As you've been hearing, 2 children aged 8 and 10 have been killed in a shooting during a Minneapolis Catholic school mass. The gunman was armed with a rifle, a shotgun and a pistol and shot through the church windows, police say, adding that he then turned a gun on himself. Of the 17 others injured, 14 are children, 2 are in a critical condition. President Donald Trump has written on Truth Social saying the White House will continue to monitor this terrible situation.
During the mass, a gunman approached on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible.
That was the Minneapolis Police Chief, Brian O'Hara there. Elsewhere, Nigel Farage has clarified Reform UK's stance on deportation, saying the party's focus will be on young men arriving legally. The Reform UK leader said there's slight confusion over his earlier comments, insisting deporting children is far more complex and families are not top of the list. But pressed on whether women would be removed, he confirmed that single women would be detained and deported, while cases involving mothers and children would be handled differently.
If a single woman, etc., comes to Britain, they will be detained and deported. If a woman comes with children, we'll work out the best thing to do. But the big message here is that the vast majority of those that come are young males.
Mr Farage stressed the big message was the majority of small boat arrivals are young males, and under Reform's plans they will not be staying. Kemi Badenoch has this afternoon suggested a Conservative government would not pay money to the Taliban to take back Afghan migrants deported from the UK.
We have said that we need to make sure that anyone who comes to this country illegally is sent back to their home country or to a third country for processing. And we will do what we need to, but what we're not going to be doing is rewarding enemies of our country with money which they can then use to fight us later. That would be where my red line is drawn.
Meanwhile, a major political shift in Scotland. The Conservatives have lost their first MSP to Reform UK. Graham Simpson announced his defection alongside Nigel Farage, saying it was an enormous wrench to leave the party he'd joined at 15. But he admitted he'd told the Tories months ago he wouldn't stand for them again, and now wants to help Reform offer voters something fresh. An Ethiopian national seeking asylum in the UK has appeared in court today for a second hearing. He told the court, "I am not a wild animal." Hadush Kabatu is charged with 3 counts of sexual violence, harassment and inciting a girl to engage in sexual activity. He was living in the Bell Hotel in Epping in Essex at the time of the alleged crimes. Hadush told Colchester Magistrates Court today, "I'm a Christian and I'm also giving testimony on the Holy Bible." The alleged incident involving Kabatu sparked protests and counter-protests outside the hotel after similar protests were held outside hotels across the country housing asylum seekers. British Transport Police have confirmed that Tommy Robinson will not be charged over an alleged assault at St Pancras railway station last month after the CPS concluded there was not a realistic prospect of conviction. The 42-year-old was arrested at Luton Airport on the 4th of August in connection with the incident, which took place on the 28th of July. British Transport Police said the alleged victim did not wish to provide a statement to the investigation. Energy bills will rise by more than expected this autumn. Ofgem has increased the energy price cap by 2% from October, taking the typical annual bill to £1,755. That's around £35 more than now. Ministers admit it'll worry families, blaming wholesale gas prices, which are still far higher than before Russia's war in Ukraine. Labour says its plan will protect consumers with more support for households and investment in clean power, while accusing the Conservatives of leaving Britain exposed.
Any rise in prices is obviously a concern for households and for businesses, but the truth is that the price of gas is still 75% higher than it was before the invasion of Ukraine, and we're still paying the price for that. That's the fossil fuel penalty of us being tied as a country far too closely to gas prices, and that's why as a government we're driving forward as fast as possible to remove that volatility of gas and to deliver clean, homegrown, secure power that will bring down bills but also make sure that we're delivering on our energy security.
And finally, the government is pushing for a permanent food and drinks deal with the EU within 18 months.
Borders, bills, jobs. That is the kind of strategic partnership we need.
Labour says the deal will cut costs for shoppers and help exporters. But Reform UK and the Conservatives have hit back, warning Britain risks being entangled in EU law and losing sovereignty. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour. Now it's back to Dawn.
Thank you very much, Tatiana, and welcome to Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson, this evening on, a very sad, tragic story we're bringing to you. Joining me until 7 o'clock is my panel tonight is Peter Hitchens, columnist at the Daily Mail, and Aaron Bassani, founder at Navara Media. Now, as always, this show is about you and your views, so get those messages coming in straight away, and I'll read as many out as I possibly can at gbnews.com/your say. But we are starting with the breaking news this afternoon, and it is, again, incredibly tragic news of a shooting at a Catholic school in Minneapolis. The chief of the local police department spoke earlier. Here's what he had to say.
This worship service was marking the first week of school for children that are attending the Annunciation Catholic School. During the Mass, a gunman approached on the outside, on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the Mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping.
Now, this is a Catholic school in a quiet area. The children at the school are preschool to 8th grade. We know that 2 children, sadly, have lost their lives. They were aged 8 and 10 years old. 17 others have been injured. 14 of those are children. 2 children are still critical. That's according to the Minneapolis Police Chief, Brian O'Hara. We don't know any information as yet about the person who committed this awful thing. We hear it way too often from America, don't we? We believe it was a young man who took his own life. He or was taken up by the police. We're not 100% sure about that as well. As soon as we do have any more information, I will bring it to you. But obviously, it's an awful tragedy. And I just want to read to you what the Minneapolis Mayor, Jacob Frey, said when he was talking about this incident, because I think it strikes a chord with all of us. Whenever we hear things like this, we always offer our thoughts and prayers, don't we? Well, this is what the local mayor had to say. He said, "Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now." These children were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church, in the pews, saying their mass. These are little kids we are talking about. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. I can't believe once again this has happened. It's unfortunately it's America. I mean, 185 children, teachers and others have been killed in school shootings. That's since the 1999 Columbine High School massacre, where our 16 lost their lives in that one. It's not the normal Dewbs opener, I know. It's not about feisty debate, but what can we say? We are here again. Peter Hitchens, I'm going to come to you first on this one. Awful, tragic news. Once again, it's another school shooting in America. Is there anything we can ever do about this?
Well, I'm reluctant because it's happened such a short time ago and so many people are in the midst of grief to do anything in the way of speculation about the cause of it. What I'm going to say now isn't directly to do with this shooting. And the first thing I would say is that whatever the mayor says, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing a bit of praying for the people who are the victims at the wrong end of this at any time, and recommend it as a thing to do. But look at these shootings in general, and what you will find in many cases is there is a huge uninvestigated area of them. That is to say, the state of mind of the shooter. And I will talk here about one which I do know a little bit about in Uvalde in Texas, which you probably remember, a couple of years ago, I think now. And it was made plain on the New York Times website that the shooter in Uvalde had been a user of marijuana. That story then disappeared from the New York Times website and never appeared in the print edition of the newspaper. So as I worked for a national newspaper, I was able to make some efforts to see what had happened. I thought, well, perhaps the original New York Times story had been incorrect. And we checked it out through a freelance on the spot in Texas, and she established beyond doubt that the New York Times original story had been correct, that the shooter had been a marijuana user. There was no doubt about it. And somehow or other, this had disappeared. I tried every conceivable line of approach to the New York Times, that great newspaper, to see if they could explain it. No one would answer any of my phones.
As to why the story had been removed?
That's right, no one. I contacted the reporters with their names on the story. I contacted the London Bureau. I contacted the editor's office in New York City. Nobody replied. And I think there is a great reluctance in the liberal world to accept that there is a growing correlation between the use of marijuana and serious mental illness, and indeed serious mental illness and serious violence. My friend Ross Granger has compiled a book called Attacker Smoked Cannabis, in which he studied for some time local newspaper stories in this country of very serious violence, and found that in an enormous number of cases the perpetrator was a long-term marijuana user, and you will find this if you look. Now, there are many, many features of this. People will quite rightly say, well, of course, if you let everybody have guns, it's more likely to happen, no doubt about it. On the other hand, school shootings do take place on this side of the Atlantic. In this country.
Thankfully, they are.
They're rarer, but they do happen.
Thankfully, they're so rare. We can only name one, and that is Dunblane, and that was 1992.
But they also take place in very peaceful countries such as Finland and in Germany, and I think the Czech Republic. If you look, you will find it's not unknown, countries with much stricter gun control than here. And in China, there are horrible massacres of children in which knives are used. So to remove the guns from the picture might make things easier. I'm not arguing about that, but it may not be the main issue. The thing which has grown in the whole world since the 1960s is wholly irrational, inexplicable school shootings. Now, there is no explanation for this. You can't think of you can't think of a single reason why any rational person would do this sort of thing. So I think we should look a lot more closely at these shooters, a lot more consistently.
It's probably an element that does need taking. If you look back at the American school shootings since Columbine in 1999, they do seem to be almost exclusively, well, they are exclusively young men in their 20s.
Or younger.
Or younger, absolutely. Or, you know, it's with mental health issues, of course, because no one sane does this kind of thing. Now, we do know that the number of guns in America outnumber people, I think, by about 7 to 1. Aaron, what would you like to say about this? I mean, it's just a horrible, tragic story. Again, we don't know any more information about the shooter, as Americans would say, in this case.
What a pro-gun person would say in the United States is that guns don't kill people. People kill people. But at the same time, it does strike me as deeply unwise to allow and permit access to assault rifles to the wider population. I understand pistols, I understand shotguns. You go to any working farm in this country, you'll find shotguns. But the idea that a private citizen can access the kinds of firepower that is usually the permit, the provenance of a national military just strikes me as deeply, deeply unwise. And look, we often criticise this country. We say things are going wrong in Europe. Fortunately, we don't have anything like this. I mean, Finland, Peter is right, Finland has had school shootings.
Yes, they have.
But actually, gun ownership in Finland is extraordinarily high. And so you then have to ask questions. When gun ownership in Finland isn't that far off the US, there is a massive gun culture in that country, and yet they don't have things like this happening, then clearly there's something deeper going on.
Yeah, obviously we don't know what the weapon was used in this case, but gunshots being described by witnesses do make it sound like it was a semi-automatic rather than a handgun. It's just an awful tragic story, and I don't like to start Michelle's lovely show off with such a tragic story, but that's it. We will bring you any more news as and when it happens. So please do keep your messages coming in, anything you want to say about what we're talking about so far, or anything you want to say. If you're upset by this, if you're, you've got your own children, you're worried about them, the thoughts of those parents collecting, the children from that school. Some of them are preschool, they're little kids. OK, now, coming up, as your bills are going up, sorry, this isn't good news either, is it? Is net zero and the drive for windmills to blame? You don't want to miss one. See you soon.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Dewbs & Co. with me, Dawn Neeson, in for Michelle tonight. Keeping me company until 7 o'clock is Peter Hitchens and Aaron Bastani. And we are now, well, we will bring you any more breaking news on the shooting in America, obviously, but we are now going to talk about issues closer to home, including the news today. The energy regulator, Ofgem, has announced the price cap will rise by 2% from October. Energy Minister Michael Shanks had this to say.
Any rise in prices is obviously a concern for households and for businesses, but the truth is that the price of gas is still 75% higher than it was before the invasion of Ukraine, and we're still paying the price for that. That's the fossil fuel penalty of us being tied as a country far too closely to gas prices, and that's why as a government we're driving forward as fast as possible to remove that volatility of gas and to deliver clean, homegrown, secure power that will bring down bills, but also make sure that we're delivering on our energy security.
Yes, OK. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is blaming wind power.
Allow windmills. We're not allowing any windmills to go up. I mean, unless there's a legal situation where somebody committed to it a long time ago, we don't allow windmills. We're just not going to allow them. They're ruining our country. They're ruining everyone. If you look at, I hate to mention countries, but you look at the UK, what's happened at UK, they have energy costs have gone through the roof. It's because of wind. They want to do everything. Close up the northern parts of the country. They have oil. It's tremendous.
He doesn't like windmills, does he? Remember when he was over at, last month, was it, at his golf course complaining about the wind turbines that he could see at the end of the, I think, the 18th hole. I can't remember which hole it was in any case. But the regulator, Ofgem, have said today the hike is driven by an increase in electricity balancing cost, which basically relates to extra expense of paying wind farms in remote areas. So there is this is not us making it up, blaming Green Zero. There is a genuine reason that your price has gone up, and it is to do with the green energy drive. Aaron, let's come to you first on this one. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, 2%, but for people when they're really struggling, I mean, it could, it's a £1,755 rise a year on average. So, it's just a lot of money. And if it's to drive green issues, we just can't afford it, basically, can we?
Let me do my best impression of a Labour politician, or any government politician.
Oh, go on,
if this
go
was to
for
happen.
it. What, basically lie?
You're saying it's a 2% rise. I would say it's a 2.5% real terms fall, because, of course, wages are going up by about 4.5%. So wages are increasing at a faster rate than increases to energy bills. But in all seriousness, like you say, 2% is not a massive increase. It's below the base rate of inflation. I presume, in all seriousness, that is what the government would say. We should have a proper conversation about energy security in this country. China is going full throttle to solar, to wind, but also it has coal. And people in this country don't understand why. They say, on the one hand, you're adopting all these renewables, but you're also really doubling down on the dirtiest energy source possible.
Because they want to keep their citizens warm, one would have thought.
Because they have lots of coal. It's energy security. They don't want to import energy. And I think that's the strongest argument for renewables. I think you probably want a mix of gas, renewables and nuclear. I think the idea that you can have 100% from renewables and no gas and no nuclear is not going to work in the short to medium term. Who can talk about the long term? The electorate doesn't live in the long term. And it's also going to create lots of political consequences. So I would say more nuclear. Don't get rid of wind and solar, because it's good from an energy security point of view. And you know what? We should be using our own gas here domestically rather than selling it on the international market.
Well, there is that. I mean, Ed Miliband is determined to have a green grid by 2030, which, somewhat scarily, Peter, is only 5 years away, she says, doing her maths.
It's dogma. And it reminds me of the dogmas of the old Soviet Union, in which it eventually was so distorted, the world they created, that it was cheaper for farmers to go into town to the baker and buy bread to feed to their pigs than it was to make pig's will and give it to them. That's the kind of thing which happens when dogma rules the country. And what dogma has ruled that we have to have wind power, and now, of course, solar power as well, which is even less effective in this country, but large parts of agricultural land are now being placed under solar farms as well. It has to be heavily subsidised. It can't work if it isn't. You've got to build, if you build offshore wind, you have enormous expense in actually laying the foundations of the windmill. And then on top of that, you have very, very long and extremely expensive cabling coming in from them. All wind energy has to be brought by long and expensive new cabling, a new part of the energy grid to connect it with the existing part. It then lacks a very crucial thing called inertia. Now, inertia is what coal-fired power and gas-fired power and nuclear power have. It keeps the system from flip-flopping when there is a any kind of small power failure. If you haven't got inertia in your power system, it's much more likely to have power cuts. So wind is also less reliable in that way. And because wind is intermittent, you have to run gas power stations at a low level, ready to spring into action if the wind fails. And when the wind blows too much, it can produce too much wind, which has to be offloaded, or it simply has to be shut down.
And we can't store it. We have nowhere storing it.
And all this is completely pointless because the reason for it is supposedly because coal-fired power, which we had a lot of until we blew it all up, was destroying the planet. The amount of coal-fired power which we destroyed, which was very important in this country, is as of nothing to the amount of coal-fired power that China builds each year. I've been to Inner Mongolia, where the Chinese coalfields are. It's astounding. These immense 2-mile-long coal trains thundering by at 80 miles an hour all the time to fuel the Chinese economic.
Do you think we should just call? Do you think we should just call the whole thing off? I mean,
I would call it off. And the other thing is, you've got to stop saying, "Oh no, we can't have gas. We can't have any more gas because it's naughty." And it's all very well, Aaron, as well, talking about nuclear power. Nuclear power stations take a long time to build.
Minimum
even
5
with the
years.
best will in the world, it takes a long time. What we're doing at the moment is the other great fraud, is that a lot of the time we're not producing enough power for ourselves, so we're bringing in French nuclear power. Or indeed, this is the funniest of all, coal-fired power from the Netherlands, because we can't produce enough power ourselves by our denuded system, where we have a lot of perfectly good, rather modern coal-fired power stations, which we didn't just close down, which a wise government might have done in mothball. We blew them up. We actually blew them all up. And they are not there anymore. If we turn out to have been mistaken about this, which I think we were, we can't do anything about it. We can't bring them back into service.
The problem with this drive, this non-stop drive to a green grid even by 2030 and net zero by 2050, the unions are against it. Even Tony Blair has called for a major rethinking about Ed Miliband's policies.
Yeah, that is a very bad sign when he's telling you to have a...
Well, yeah, quite. But meanwhile, as I said, you know...
That's a bit extreme, guys.
Yeah, Peter Hitchens won't change his views now that he's had Tony Blair agrees with him.
Yeah, sorry, Peter. I didn't mean to upset you there.
But I mean, entirely upon reason. On the rare occasions he says something sensible, I distinguish it from all the 97% of the rest.
Even Lord Blunkett, former Labour Home Secretary, saying we're not in a good place with this. And meanwhile, it's ordinary people out there who are struggling to pay their bills are the ones going to suffer.
So I would say, cast your mind back to March 2022, when we had a massive...
I'm having trouble with last week.
I know,
to be honest
me too.
With you.
And the price for gas per megawatt hour was £275. Right now, it's about 30 to 40 pounds per megawatt hour. And I suppose that is the best argument. You don't hear it very frequently for wind, for solar, for gas, for nuclear. For that mix is that... Imagine, as an energy consumer, you knew that there would never be that kind of spike ever again. I think lots of people listening to that would say, look, if I knew that energy was going to increase by 1.5% every year for the next 20 years, great, we're never going to have a repeat of 2022, we're never going to have a repeat of the mid-1970s with regards to price shocks. I think people would take that. And actually, I think that's one of the advantages with regards to renewables, being part of a wider mix, that isn't really sold, which is a shame. Actually, it's a very practical solution. And, of course, Peter is objecting it for ideological reasons. Sometimes it is being pushed for ideological reasons.
It's one of the reasons why I go on and on about the destruction of our coal-fired fleet of nuclear of power stations. We had this. They were modern. They'd been designed and built in the 60s and 70s. They had many years of life left in them. The fuel to power them is readily obtainable at any time, and we just destroyed it. So there was we left no possibility of returning to that. Gas is subject, as we know, to all kinds of fluctuations. And nuclear power, it might take 20 years to build a nuclear power station. We can't always rely on the French to say yes when we ring them up and say, look, can we please have a lot of your electricity because we haven't got it.
The French on the verge of going
can't rely on it.
In any
So
case,
we just have made a grave mistake. And there will be, I think, for a long time, my friend, the late Christopher Booker, used to say that there will be, at a time when we've never been so reliant on electricity to keep a computerised world running.
Oh, gosh.
There will be power cuts. And I'll tell you what's going to come into fashion among anybody with any money to rub together is private generators.
Oh, God. Now you worry me.
A lot of the problem at the moment, by the way, is solved. They either contact companies and say, will you stop using power to take a load off the grid, or they kick in emergency diesel repeat that, diesel generators to get themselves over the hump. This is what's actually going on.
It is madness. So just quickly, right, final question on this. Ed Miliband, is he interested in the truth, or is he just interested in going down in history as the UK's greatest eco-warrior?
Well, he comes from a long family of dogmatists, and therefore he's dogmatic.
Does that mean nuts?
He believes this stuff. To him, it's like a religion. He really, really believes it. And so, if anybody presents facts which contradict it, he's not going to be terribly interested.
Bit of a cult, evidently.
I just don't agree. You know, Peter was saying about people having private generators. I'm sure many of your wonderful viewers and listeners out there have solar panels on their roof. I know my mother-in-law does.
Oh, made in China.
Made in China? Well, they should be made in the UK. But she has solar panels on her roof, and basically she has no energy bills for 6-7 months a year.
OK, I just want to read a couple of messages out. John, wholesale gas prices are as low as they were before the Ukrainian war. Meanwhile, Stuart said they are gaslighting us about gas prices. I like that. Meanwhile, Tress says most of the cost from my energy bill is a standing charge. It's all a big con, and the next biggest charge is the green tax levies. Keep those messages coming at gbnews.com/your sake. Right, coming up. Reform UK is dominating the polls as they ramp up their immigration policies. You might have noticed them, but where is Starmer going to... Well, where is he, basically? He's never here, is he? We'll be talking about that one next.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst across many areas around the Mediterranean, it's looking largely fine as we go through tomorrow. There is some heavy thundery rain affecting some central parts. That all developed over parts of northern Spain and southern France and has then made its way east-northeastwards to affect parts of northern Italy through today and tomorrow into the Western Balkans by the end of the week. Otherwise, a lot of fine weather to be had away from those thundery downpours affecting some places. See you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into tomorrow, it should be a mostly dry and bright start across eastern areas, but eventually turning more and more unsettled from the west and temperatures returning to average for all. And it's all due to low pressure situated to the northwest of the country, dragging in frontal systems, so more cloud, some outbreaks of rain, and this mostly across western areas where it will eventually turn more unsettled, clouds starting to spill into Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland and eventually parts of England and Wales. But across central areas of England, parts of the southeast, any showers easing away, and it should be mostly dry, clear and cool night, a lot fresher than recent nights, lows reaching around 11 to 12 degrees Celsius. So a cloudy, showery start across western areas, and eventually we'll see more of this cloud spill its way eastwards, particularly across Scotland. Some showers moving through into western coast. These may start to turn heavy as we head our way through the morning, possibly even thundery, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland. A very cloudy start, if not longer, persistent outbreaks of rain across western areas, and similar across Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall, some showers moving through here. But across the Midlands, central parts of England, parts of the southeast, dry and bright, but once again we'll eventually see that cloud start to spill its way in from the west. Longer spells of more persistent rain starting to push into Northern Ireland, and it will start to turn quite gusty, particularly around coastal areas, or if you catch any heavy, possibly thundery downpours, we could see some quite strong gusts associated with this. And it is going to feel like a much cooler day, highs reaching around 22 to 23 degrees Celsius across the southeast. To finish off the week, I'm afraid it is remaining unsettled. Further showers, particularly across Scotland, and also some longer spells of rain across parts of the south and southeast. This too turning heavy and possibly thundery. Most areas of England and Wales are going to catch a shower or two by the end of the week. And that theme is continuing into the weekend, with temperatures once again remaining around average for the time of year. Bye-bye.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. A traffic incident on the M90 at Junction 1 southbound is causing delays with Lane 2 closed. Drive cautiously. The M4 westbound at Junction 42 near Earlswood is closed for construction with diversions in place. Near Wakefield on the A1 northbound, a broken down vehicle is affecting one lane. In Slough, a collision on the M4 eastbound at Junction 6 has led to lane closures. Near Kent, the A21 southbound is experiencing congestion, delaying traffic 15 minutes. And on the trains, delays are reported on Avanti West Coast between Prestatyn and Flint. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Oh, well, we could tell you what we've been talking about in the break, but I'll probably get sorted out by Ofcom if I did. In any case, this is Dewbs & Co. with me, Dawn Neeson, and keeping me company tonight is a very frisky Peter Hitchens and an equally frisky Aaron Bastani. Lucky me, eh? OK, and you, of course, your company is the most important thing here, so let us know what you'll want to say about anything we're talking about, gbnews.com/your say. Now, Labour's popularity has sunk to a 6-year low. They've only been in power a year, with the latest YouGov poll suggesting that 28% of people would vote for Reform UK versus Labour's 20%, and the Tories, who, yeah, I know, sinking at 17%. It might be something to do with the fact that Keir Starmer seems to be doing very little at the moment, whilst Reform dominate the headlines day in, day out. I mean, 4 or 5 pages in the Daily Mail today. But it's OK, at least Labour's social media presence is hitting Reform where it hurts. Well, I kind of think. Posting today while Nigel is shouting from the sidelines, Labour is getting on with delivering for Britain, and they've cited 35,000 removals. You can see that on your screen there. Plus, Nigel Farage's war on clean energy could cost 1 million jobs, say the Labour social media team, who are probably about 12, by the way. Well, we spoke about that earlier, and bills seem to be going up under Labour. And finally, a Labour's social media team of children have said Reform wants Britain to fail. Labour will make sure we succeed. Right, OK. Yeah, well, obviously, all the grown-ups, you know, the grown-ups are back in the room. Well, they're quite clearly not. They're on holiday, possibly on a paddleboard in Hove with a glass of rosé wine. But, I mean, Farage, I mean, whatever you think, Peter Hitchens has played a blinder over this weekend. I mean, he really knows how to work the audience.
Oh, no doubt about it. But he's very much playing the Trump game. The difficulty lies in what actually happens if he gets the power which he is seeking. And anybody who looks at this must wonder how practicable any of this actually is if he ever got control of the levers of government. But I'm the sort of person who worries about that, and as I know, there's about 2 or 3 people like me and several million who aren't. So it'll probably work. And it's quite likely that he will get, at this rate, that he will, maybe in some sort of coalition with some part of the Tory party, which I often think is likely, that he will get his hands on the levers of power, and then we'll discover...
Does it worry you?
Well, everything worries me. I relax by worrying. But the point here is that Britain is not the United States. President Trump has 2 huge things over Nigel Farage. One is that he is the president of a superpower, which is immensely rich and immensely militarily powerful and totally dominates his neighbours. Therefore, if he's got immigration, for instance, from neighbouring countries or indeed from anywhere in the Americas, then there's no government in America which will stand up to him if you start saying, I want to send people back to you. He can just do it. He also has land borders, which are much, much easier to control, as it turns out, than short sea borders such as we have. So he has those really, really big advantages over any British government which tried to do what he does. The other thing is, I think you may find, and this is just a guess, that the opening months of the Trump administration were brilliantly primed and planned. Lots and lots of spectacular things to do, which would look as if they were achieving stuff. I think many of them may be turning out to be more difficult than they first seemed. The other thing, of course, is the question of money. How are we going to actually persuade these countries to take back people who don't even admit that they came from them?
OK.
Unless they really want to take them back, it doesn't, no amount of money to the Taliban is necessarily going to get them to go back, because we haven't got any proof that that's where they came from in the first place.
The devil is always in the detail with those things. I mean, do you think, I mean, the whole raft of our deportation issues and migrant issues that Farage came out with yesterday, Aaron, the one thing that people have picked up on is the deal with the Taliban on returning people to Afghanistan. He he was, I would say, caught out slightly in Scotland today when he was questioned on that, when he was unveiling the Scottish SNP defector. But I thought he did look a bit uncomfortable for the first time when he was asked about deporting people to Afghanistan, certainly when it came to women and children. Do you think that's a little chink in the armour?
I think almost certainly. I think most sensible people out there would say that deporting women to Afghanistan is about as bad as it gets. I think you can make an argument, for instance, with Iran or with Syria. These are moderately, quote-unquote, normal countries most of the time. Afghanistan is basically like The Handmaid's Tale. And if I was a woman, I'd want to leave as quickly as possible. And the idea of sending women back there, I think, is quite extraordinary. Also, numerically, we're not talking that many people. Now, some people watching might be saying, Aaron, why don't you house one? I'd be perfectly happy to, actually, if it came to that.
Are you?
An Afghan woman, absolutely. I just think it's appalling, the idea that we would send women back to a Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. I find appalling. Men is a wholly different matter. Not that it's paradise for men necessarily, but it's a wholly different matter. And in terms of the overall proposal from reform, it's one thing to, quote-unquote, defend Britain's borders, so you could withdraw from the ECHR, you would have to probably get rid of the Supreme Court, you could do a bunch of things, and you could probably stop the boats. The deportations of 600,000 people over 5 years, 300 people a day, every day for 5 years, from day one, when you've got the Supreme Court, when you've got the ECHR, when you've got the House of Lords, I feel like the electorate aren't being told the whole truth.
OK, let's have a listen to what Farage actually had to say, because he has sort of, like, a bit vague on this one. Have a listen.
Are you saying that his comments were wrong?
It won't be happening in the first 5 years of a reform government.
But was he wrong?
It's just not our priority.
Does women's safety only apply to women in the UK for you?
Our primary target is to worry about women and girls on the streets of this country, less than what the countries are like that we're going to deport these men to. It's all about priorities, and it's all about, frankly, given the mess that we've had with this over the last few years, it's all about whose side are you on.
So at no point has he actually said he will definitely send women and children back to Afghanistan. And when he was questioned on it today, he said that's not the plan for 5 years. What do you think he meant by that there, Peter?
I don't know. I think he possibly may be making it up as he goes along.
Ah, right, yeah. That's a political thing, isn't it?
I've heard
quite
of it.
A bit.
I've heard that people do this.
I
think we may just have seen an example of it.
Right, OK.
I don't think this is a hugely thought-through, seriously costed, detailed planned scheme. And I think it's been very beautifully stage-managed and wonderfully launched on a slow news day, and I think it's been very successful to begin with. But I just do think these things are very, very difficult.
What about,
I spent a lot of time. The whole migration thing has been troubling me for decades. I spent a lot of time wondering what we could do while remaining civilised to resolve it, and it's very difficult. It really is.
Well, it seems to be. No one seems to.
You can do it without remaining civilised, but then what was it for? If your whole purpose was to make to make the country better, then if you end up being less civilised, what was it for? And then if you fail, then you haven't done it. I am just constantly perplexed by the number of forces against which a small, increasingly broke country such as we are would face in trying to overcome the enormous international forces, some of which we unleashed ourselves. And I say this every time this comes up. The large-scale immigration into Western Europe is largely caused by the wars which arrogant, silly countries like ourselves have repeatedly started over the last 20 years. And this is what has happened as a result of our own actions.
I think you could argue that...
Unless we can restore... Aaron mentioned Syria. Syria is a country which, for all its many faults, is run by a horrible dictator who tortured people to death in dungeons. But it was peaceful. We destabilised it and turned it into a hellhole, and we've now handed it over to an Al-Qaeda government. I'm not sure it would be particularly brilliant sending people back there either.
I'd say it's better than Afghanistan, but I take your point. I take your point.
And we didn't start wars...
Better or worse, I don't think either of us would rush there.
No. But we didn't start wars in Sudan and Eritrea for a start, where these people, many of the migrants, Eritrea, I think, is second on the list at the moment, are coming from.
The principal wars we started were
exactly
in Yugoslavia, in Iraq, and in Syria, and in Libya, and we also helped to encourage the so-called Arab Spring, which destabilised that.
I'd also say, Dawn, with regards to Eritrea, because people might think, well, people are coming from the Horn of Africa. Libya was actually working alongside the Europeans to offer employment to many of these people, actually. You had a good standard of living in Libya, and it was actually a bulwark in terms of controlling population flows from sub-Saharan Africa into Europe. The Europeans got rid of Gaddafi. I mean, it's just insane to think About it.
Okay, just
David, it's the thing that David Cameron, people think he was just whatever, an old Etonian idiot. The truth is that the worst single thing that he did was the overthrow of Gaddafi in Libya, with one of the longest consequences, and he very, very rarely gets reproached with it. And people should always remember, when they see his smiling, cherubic face, this is the man who contributed most to the immigration crisis in Europe.
Just one final...
The single one who did. And also the brutality of the behaviour of our armed forces in Libya at the time, if you read the details, is quite shocking.
Just one final very quick question on this subject. I mean, Germany have started deportation flights to Afghanistan with no problem whatsoever. What's different about us doing it?
So I think the Afghans from Germany going back to Afghanistan are about 1,000.
Still going there.
Yeah, no, and I think you can do that, but the point is we're talking 600,000 people. And
they're not all Afghanistan.
No, but many will be. Many will be.
Okay.
By the way, it's important to say that many of them won't be via small boats.
Okay.
The majority of people here illegally are visa overstays.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's true. What Labour said they're getting rid of. I just want to read a quick message from Alistair Farage. He's too soft and will lose support if he keeps turning to Labour. I think that makes sense. And Simon says, if we are short of soldiers, then we should conscript all illegal migrants into the army. Not quite sure I want some of the people we are seeing coming over armed with guns and joining the army. Let me know what you think, though, GB.
There's a flaw in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think
I'm racking my brains to
what
work
could
out
possibly go wrong with that one? In any case, it's the highlight of the show for Peter Hitchens, because we are talking about SEX. I gave you a written warning on this one, Mr. Hitchens. Well, actually, we're talking about fertility. It's falling record lows. I mean, how can we start having more babies? Steady. OK, don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, welcome back. This is Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson, keeping me company. Well, you know who they are. It's Peter Hitchens and Aaron Bastani. They're still here. I haven't managed to get rid of them yet. But the most important people are you, obviously, at gbnews.com/your say. Now, we're going to talk about sex. S-E-X. That word.
Sorry, what was that you said?
I'm sorry, turn your hearing aid up, Peter Hitchens. Fertility rates for England and Wales are falling. They've collapsed to a record low in England and Wales for a third year in a row. And this is according to government data, so it must be accurate. But two regions continue to rise, and that's London and the West Midlands. OK, Aaron, what's this down to? More people having sex, one would have thought, or less sex.
Well, you know what's really interesting is that fathers over 60 have increased by 14%.
Why is everyone looking in that direction?
So older men,
Peter
men of
Hitchens.
Peter's age, you know, more frisky than ever.
I'm not just over 60, I'm way over 60.
That's way in the rearview mirror.
Solve the fertility crisis.
Well, you never know.
You never do, but I think you can make a pretty educated guess.
The fertility rate of this country is falling precipitously. It's fallen from, I think, about 1.7 15 years ago.
Why? We're not having babies.
Well, this is the $64 million question. I mean, it's fallen before. It was falling at the start of the 20th century, and then it went up again. It's actually been falling for a very long time. It just had this kind of recovery after the Second World War. Lots of people say contraception, women's access to education, women in work, etc., etc. I think
women's fault.
Good, all good things. But the point is, 2.1, good. 1.9, 1.7, fine. Once you start going to below 1.5 towards 1, you create major economic problems going forward because your labour market, your taxpayer base shrinks relative to your elderly population, and that's obviously not good.
Yeah, well, you get a gold star because you're doing your bit. You've got a gorgeous little girl, and can we say on there that you're trying for another one?
Yeah,
we've just done that. So brace yourself, Mrs. Bastani, at home there. Peter, it might be a bit too late for you and I. Well, not together, obviously, but you know, in general.
It's too late in a way for the country. This is partly the product of third wave feminism with its hostility to women. Or indeed anybody staying at home with children, which has made functional family life almost impossible, except for the super rich, really for the past 40 years. If you want to have anything remotely resembling a pleasant life in this country, you have to have two incomes, and therefore the children have to be stuffed into nurseries. The life of I'm going to say here that this is largely a problem for women because I think it is. I'm not saying that men shouldn't stay at home if they want to, but the life of many women is almost an intolerable succession of trying to get the children to school, to try to bring them up, to try and keep the household going, chasing around all the time, drive here, drive there, in an exhausting pattern of life, which is both unsatisfactory and unhappy and not at all appealing. Compare that with not having any children or with having only one child, and a lot of people will choose to do it, especially in an era where contraception is available to everybody practically from the age of about 13 without any questions asked, and also where abortion effectively exists on demand. And there is actually quite major social and economic pressure in a society designed in this way on people not to have children. And it's not particularly surprising that they don't.
Do you think the government could do more to help, Aaron?
Much is more to help if you wanted to.
They could do a lot more. I mean, look, for instance, basic thing, people watching this, I mean, think about this. You finish work probably at 5 or 6, in all likelihood. Your kid finishes school at 3:30. You know, things like that. We are setting ourselves up to fail as a society. Peter's quite right. If you've got 2 people at work and they finish work at 6 and the kid finishes work at school at 3:30, how on earth is that meant to operate? So I think we should be thinking about quite basic things like making the summer holidays shorter, maybe prolonging the school day. Maybe kids go to school in different ways. Some of it, I think, is also going to involve cash. I think we should be giving subsidies to stable families that already have one child. So if you want a second, we will help you. That's not to say that...
But hang on, there's a general thing, and it's in every conversation, the phrase working woman. She works. The only kind of work which women can do that is respected in society is working outside the home. Even if it's wage slavery in a call centre, it's respected more than the far more important job, in my view, of raising
I don't think that's true anymore.
Which gets no respect at all. It's not in any way helped by the government.
Gentlemen, as a wage slave working outside the home, I'm going to have to shut you both up. Aaron Bassani and Peter Hitchin, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Don't go too far. Up next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into tomorrow, it should be a mostly dry and bright start across eastern areas, but eventually turning more and more unsettled from the west and temperatures returning to average for all. And it's all due to low pressure situated to the northwest of the country, dragging in frontal systems, so more cloud, some outbreaks of rain, and this mostly across western areas where it will eventually turn more unsettled, clouds starting to spill into Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland and eventually parts of England and Wales. But across central areas of England, parts of the southeast, any showers easing away, and it should be mostly dry, clear and cool night, a lot fresher than recent nights, lows reaching around 11 to 12 degrees Celsius. So a cloudy, showery start across western areas, and eventually we'll see more of this cloud spill its way eastwards, particularly across Scotland. Some showers moving through into western coast. These may start to turn heavy as we head our way through the morning, possibly even thundery, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland. A very cloudy start, if not longer, persistent outbreaks of rain across western areas, and similar across Wales, parts of Devon and Cornwall, some showers moving through here. But across the Midlands, central parts of England, parts of the southeast, dry and bright, but once again we'll eventually see that cloud start to spill its way in from the west. Longer spells of more persistent rain starting to push into Northern Ireland, and it will start to turn quite gusty, particularly around coastal areas, or if you catch any heavy, possibly thundery downpours, we could see some quite strong gusts associated with this. And it is going to feel like a much cooler day, highs reaching around 22 to 23 degrees Celsius across the southeast. To finish off the week, I'm afraid it is remaining unsettled. Further showers, particularly across Scotland, and also some longer spells of rain across parts of the south and southeast. This too turning heavy and possibly thundery. Most areas of England and Wales are going to catch a shower or two by the end of the week. And that theme is continuing into the weekend, with temperatures once again remaining around average for the time of year. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M90 southbound at Junction 1 has restrictions due to a road traffic incident causing delays. The M4 westbound at Junction 42 in Earlswood has closed the entry slip road for construction. Diversions are in place. In Cornwall, the A30 eastbound collision between the A3074 and A3047 Camborne results in lane closures. Kent congestion on A21 southbound between A225 and A26 causes 10-minute delays. And on the trains, Elna reports disruptions at Skipton, Bradford Forster Square, Leeds and significant disruption at Wakefield Westgate. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's the final week to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. The French government could be about to fall. Would that mean their stop the boat strategy would be in jeopardy, or frankly, would it make no difference at all? Donald Trump hits out at UK net zero policy, saying it's giving us expensive energy and that the whole wind thing's a total scam. Is he right or not? We debate. I think he's got a point. And record low birth rates in England and Wales. Is that going to be used as an excuse for mass immigration into Britain, or is AI going to mean there are fewer people we're going to need for work anyway? All of that and much more, but first, let's get the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nigel, thank you very much and good evening. The top stories: 2 children aged 8 and 10 have been killed in a shooting during a Minneapolis Catholic school mass. The gunman was armed with a rifle, a shotgun and a pistol and shot through the church windows, police say, adding that he then turned a gun on himself. Of the 17 others injured, 14 are children, 2 are still in a critical condition. The US President Donald Trump has written on Truth Social saying the White House will continue to monitor this terrible situation. Elsewhere, a major political shift in Scotland. The Conservatives have lost their first MSP to Reform UK. Graham Simpson announced his defection alongside Nigel Farage, saying it was an enormous wrench to leave the party he'd joined at 15. But he admitted he'd told the Tories months ago